Julian Assange has meanwhile published a speech in which he severely criticises President Obama for his handling of whistleblowers. The WikiLeaks founder believes that Obama ultimately betrayed his promises of hope and change. He also criticises the US president for going after whistleblowers and lacking transparency while playing judge, jury and executioner by doing whatever he wants across the world. Well, for more about the fate of Snowden, let's now talk to Eric Draitser. He's a geopolitical analyst and founder of the website stopimperialism.com. Eric, also in his statement, Julian Assange said, look, there should be now an end to spying and a changing of policies. Do you think the US and the UK will really listen to what he has to say?
Well, of course not. That's a cruel joke, because as we know, the United States, the UK, and the other powers in the West have spent billions upon billions of dollars creating the infrastructure of a surveillance state. As you well know, the United Kingdom is perhaps the most surveilled country anywhere in the world, and citizens of that country understand that anywhere they go, their movements are tracked, their movements are seen. We see the same thing happening in the United States, particularly in the large cities like New York, Chicago, and elsewhere. This has become normalized. So the notion that somehow the incredible revelations from Snowden about the NSA are actually going to change anything, the only way that could happen is with a real social movement in this country where people unite around the issue of privacy and civil liberties.
But what is the problem about this particular type of surveillance? If you're on a social network or if you shop online, you're being snooped on anyway, aren't you?
Yes, except that what this is not only is it happening in secret and there's no way to really combat it if you're the victim of it, but it is an entirely coordinated surveillance grid, so that anything that you do, aside from social media, purchases you make, phone calls you make, who you know, who's in your email contacts, and so forth, all of that goes to create what could be called a profile. So essentially nothing you can do, even if it's outside of the surveillance system, is secret anymore. And beyond that, what we see is that this is all taking place outside of a legal framework. You noted in the introduction there that the question of espionage has been raised when nobody can actually demonstrate that Edward Snowden provided material support or aid and comfort to an enemy of the United States, unless, of course, the authorities in the U.S. consider U.S. citizens to be enemies of the state.
But Eric, all this is about surely keeping us safe from terrorist attacks. So the security services have got to do something, haven't they?
Well, essentially, the argument goes that because we want to prevent the destruction of our open society and our democratic way of life, we should therefore allow for the destruction of our democratic society and open way of life. It is a circular argument, and it makes no sense. Rather, what we should be asking is, why is such rampant criminality taking place in the United States all the way up the chain of command, literally into the White House? Why is it that such a cohesive system has been created, and the dialogue that comes out of that, the discourse after the revelations of Snowden, is not about the legality, it's not about the privacy issues, it's about Snowden, it's about Glenn Greenwald, it's about leakers and whistleblowers. This is misdirection and a distortion of the reality of the situation. The reality is that the United States and the UK and its various partners have evolved into surveillance states, and it's not a very great leap into a full-blown fascist police state.
Just very briefly and finally, we saw plenty of, and we are seeing plenty of diplomatic tension over the Assange case. What about China? Will they hand this man over to Washington to avoid any diplomatic problems?
Well, it's impossible to say. I mean, diplomatic problems could arise, but we also know that Glenn Greenwald, along with Snowden, have not released all of the information. It's entirely possible that they're holding something back to use as leverage, particularly in that situation. And I would also just like to add that those people who are demonizing Snowden, who are finding conspiracy theories within this, they are the ones who are, in fact, tacitly supporting the police state, the NSA, and the government.
Eric, thanks a lot. Good to hear your comments there. Eric Draitser there, live here on RT. Thank you.